Welcome back. We've been discussing the tragedy that left 3 people dead inside a Birmingham business yesterday. Police call it a workplace shooting, a murder-suicide. I'm joined now by attorney Douglas Kauffman. Mr. Kauffman, thanks so much for being here. You specialize in this area of workplace violence and what you can do. Are there steps that employers can take to prevent this from happening?
Well, it's difficult to predict intentional acts, but there are steps employers can take to potentially minimize those risks.
I know there are some companies here that as soon as an employee is fired, they escort them out the business. It seems harsh, but you say that's actually a safety precaution. Tell us about that.
Right. A lot of employees, when they're terminated, for whatever reason, they might feel like it's a loss of dignity to be escorted out by security or to have their things boxed up and mailed to them as opposed to letting them go back to their desk to clean it out. But there's a reason for that often, and you have to balance those things. So, employers want to protect the safety of the coworkers, so walking somebody out directly with security and boxing those things up often is a precaution taken just for the safety of the individuals.
Are you surprised a company as big as UPS wouldn't have something like that in place?
I don't know the specific situation with UPS. My understanding was that the individual got a letter in the mail about termination. So a lot of employers sometimes might have protocols in terms of letting key personnel know that someone is no longer working at the employer. So if somebody returns to the workplace, that people would be on notice, for example, the frontline security or a receptionist or somebody like that. And another thing with respect to uniforms and keys and taking those things up from a terminated employer often could be important in these type of situations.
Especially in this, because he had his uniform on.
That's right. So somebody may not even have suspected that he was no longer working there in this particular situation.
In this case, it appears he targeted his supervisors. Is there anything supervisors should do and me as an employee should be on the lookout for?
I think all employers prepare for things like fire drills, tornadoes. I think all employers should really consider about preparing for what happens if somebody, whether that's a former employee or just somebody off the street that's mad at your company, comes in and does some act like this. What is the contingency plan? Whether that's just giving training about where to go, lock your doors, go under the desk. There are tips out there from like the Department of Homeland Security that can give employers tips on what to do in case something like this happens.
And I think for this particular gentleman, he had been employed there for 23 years, so people may have thought they knew him and trusted him and didn't think anything about it.
Right, and terminations can be very emotional. A lot of us put a lot of our worth in our jobs, so things like employee assistance programs that are available for employees following termination sometimes are helpful for the individuals that go through terminations.
Great advice, Mr. Kauffman. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Back to you.